days, we'll be starting the St. Patrick's Day Festival, and in 11 days, the parade here. I'm Ken Slatz out of the Office of Public Communications. We have a lot to cover here today. I see some of our VIPs here. Chief Revenue is here with Savannah Fire Rescue, Assistant Chief Gavin with SPD, and several others who will be introduced, and we will let them speak on behalf of the city and behalf of the parade committee, as Lawrence Bubba Edgerly is with us as well. We're going to start things off. Obviously, we're here. If you look to a picture that was here last year, we did put an effort on enforcement for litter control here in Chippewa Square, and as you see, we are going to increase that enforcement, and you can even see the Trustees Theater in the background from this picture, and that's something that we definitely want to clean up to help keep our city clean. Susan Broker has put together a plan and worked together with Recorder's Court and is going to talk much more about the plan to really enforce not only litter pickup, but underage drinking as well. Susan Broker from our Office of Special Events, Film, and Tourism.
Good morning, everyone. I'm getting used to doing this now. I don't know if that's a good thing, but like Ken said, I'm the Director of Office of Special Events, Film, and Tourism, and as such, we are kind of the civilian end of St. Patrick's Day. And the people behind me have a lot more important information to give to you all. But what I want to say overall is that while we are in Chippewa Square and we are focused on some of the behaviors and activities that occurred in Chippewa Square last year, please, I really want to get out to the community that this is not just about Chippewa Square. That certainly the activities and behaviors here in the square prompted us to make some changes, and we're going to talk about those. But throughout the city, we are asking people to step back and say, you know, is this really what we want our community and our event to look like? And I don't think anyone would say yes. You know, looking at this photograph, certainly our dedicated city employees, you can see them there picking up. You know, we'd rather them be doing, you know, something else. Certainly people can pick up after themselves. And so while we are, again, talking about Chippewa, I want to get the message out to our community that we are looking at the entire city and throughout the entire festival zone of behaviors that we just can't accept. So having said that, we will be having a modified Recorder's Court session that day. We've done that in the past. Probably from about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The judge will actually be in the courthouse, but Chippewa Square will serve as a hub of activity so that our code enforcement marshals and our SPD folks can bring those folks over here. They can be transported to Recorder's Court from this location. As Ken mentioned, we will be focusing on litter, underage drinking, public urination, public drunkenness, those behaviors that nobody wants to see, especially this is a family event. So I will point out that that day we are going to be compelling people to pay their fines. If you get a ticket for littering that day, if you go to Recorder's Court, you will be able to pay that fine right there, and it will be a lower fine that day than it will be the following week when you go to pay it online. And so we're hoping folks will do what they're supposed to do, go ahead over there, take the time, get that fine out of the way, and we can process you through the court system. I can answer specific questions about that after everyone's had a moment to speak. But again, my message is really about the entire festival. That yes, we're standing here in Chippewa Square, but this is about what we will expect of our, you know, residents and of our visitors to come here and, you know, respect where you are. It's a beautiful place. We put a lot of work into it. These folks behind me put a lot of work into making this a beautiful place for our residents and our visitors. So let's just try to keep it that way.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, we'll take questions at the end. Also with Recorder's Court, Buddy Clay is with us as well if you have any specific questions that he may answer. Now, Chief Minter and Assistant Chief Gavin, they have a lot of help, and they know that SPD is only one part of the enforcement. They kind of lead the enforcement, but there are so many other different avenues that we try to come together as a team. And Lieutenant Shanita Young will come up with Savannah Police Department to talk about their role.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Shanita Young with the Alcohol Beverage and Compliance Unit. Our main focus on this year with St. Patrick's Day and every other year is to make sure that our businesses are in compliance with local ordinance, as far as the state and federal laws. Our main thing and our focus will be on underage operations and overconsumption. Those are the main areas that we've seen in the past that we've had problems with. Have you seen month to month through the Savannah Police Department, you see updates on our operations every month. where you see the businesses that have failed. They come in and we do administrative meetings with them. We let them know as far as on what the problems are and how they can change it here on out. So we want to make sure that the businesses know that we will be out there. We will have the help from our Georgia State Revenue, Tobacco, and Alcohol Division. Those agents will be coming down from Atlanta and surrounding counties in order to assist Savannah Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Another enforcement that we have of officers, I should say, Kevin Milton is with our Code Compliance Department, and he's put together an integral plan to help assist Savannah Police Department and help try and keep Savannah clean as well. So, Kevin Milton.
Hey, good morning. So we'll be involved throughout the weekend with our code enforcement teams operating in the area. So the festival zone on Friday night, we've divided into 6 separate pieces of geography. We'll have teams in each one of those enforcing the festival rules in the festival control zone. Saturday morning, we get started bright and early at 06 a.m. We'll be over to B&B building inspecting the mobile vendors, or what we call hawkers, to make sure they don't have any things they shouldn't be selling during the parade. And then we'll also be here on Chippewa Square to help enfold the access control points into the square to make sure folks aren't bringing stuff in here that they should not be. We'll be doing that in partnership with the SPD. And then while the parade's going on, we have divided the parade route into 7 distinct different zones or sectors. We'll be monitoring back and forth between squares along the parade route, making sure the hawkers are not selling illegal contraband, making sure that folks are behaving properly in the squares in between those 2 routes. And then here at Chippewa Square, we'll have 4 officers working in coordination with the SPD to make sure folks are behaving properly here in Chippewa Square. And then once the parade's over, we fall back into those zones in the festival control zone, where we continue to monitor and enforce the festival control rules. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. A lot of the other guys that kind of stay in the background, the other department, sanitation and greenscapes, and we have John Denyon here with our sanitation department. And if you haven't come here, maybe one of the morning after the parade or the morning of one of the festivals around 4 a.m., you can see his crew starting to get work, and they are working all the time, and obviously lots of receptacles out here. But John has put together a plan with the sanitation department, and they're ready to help keep Savannah clean as quickly and efficiently as possible. John?
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, everybody. The sanitation department is going to have 60 to 70 employees here at 3 a.m. on Saturday morning and Sunday morning. We'll start at 3 a.m. and we'll clean up the entire downtown area, and that includes River Street all the way back to Gaston. And these employees will be out picking up litter. There's no other way to really do it. We'll have some street sweepers around, but picking up litter is the way we do it. So we'll have all those employees out here both days. They will work till the parade begins at 10, and then they will be embedded in the parade route. We will be distributing Trimtown bags that you'll see around the area. They will be close proximity to our regular trash baskets, which generally do get filled up quite quickly. We will be cleaning those out during the parade and putting up more bags during the parade, so hopefully people will have enough opportunity to put your litter where it belongs, and that does not include on the ground. So we want everyone to kind of be responsible. We were also urging people this year to bring your own trash bags and clean up after yourselves, whether you're on the parade route or in Chippewa Square or any of the squares. If you can pick up after yourselves and after your party and bring those trash bags to one of the litter containers, we will collect them. But we want everyone to kind of get in the habit of getting the thought of making sure they clean up after themselves. So if you do that, bring a bag, fill it up, put it where it belongs, we'll get it. And we're hoping that with the relaunch of our litter campaign just last week, if we can clean up and be clean on St. Patrick's Day, we can be clean every day. So we want people to kind of get into that mindset, clean up after yourselves and take responsibility. By Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, we want the city to be clean. We want people to come down and have brunch, go to church services. If everyone takes care of their part, we'll take care of ours. So come Sunday morning, you have a nice clean city to wake up to. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, John. And the final piece to our puzzle is our Greenscapes division that's been reformed over the last year and a half or so. And I know Gordon Denny, the head of that, when he looks at a picture like this, he probably cringes because he works year-round, him and his staff, to make sure Savannah stays clean, and specifically in our squares. And on a holiday weekend like that, when a lot of tourists are coming in and out, they have a quick job to keep things very clean. So, Gordon Denny.
Good morning. Thank you, Ken. So our plan is pretty much the same plan every year. We have staff that comes in and prepares these squares. We start this week with mulching and getting the plant material and everything in order for the visitors and the parade goers. And then as the parade nears, what we do is we embed people. So we come in the morning of, we make sure everything is clean and clear before people get in the squares. About 5 a.m. we'll come through and make sure everything's clean. And then we will monitor throughout the day the squares. We have people embedded in the squares with bags. They're trying to keep the trash from hitting the ground, trying to keep them from overflowing, just so that this picture you see here doesn't happen. It's a near impossibility sometimes, but they do the best they can, and they do an amazing job. Once the parade is over, as soon as we can, usually within about an hour or so, we begin cleaning the squares, getting the trash out, helping sanitation. They'll come pick them up. We will then turn around and try to bring this place back like you saw it before anybody got in here. And it's done. It's amazing. We'll do it again. We'll come back in the next morning after the parade just to make sure that there's no lingering trash or litter from the night before from anybody, and make sure everything is back to good Sunday morning for people to enjoy as they would any other day of the year.
All right, thank you, Gordon. And finally, we talked about our teamwork that we do here at the City of Savannah, and you hear from several of the team members, but it's also a major partnership, and the partnership that the city has grown with the Parade Committee is so important. Of course, the parade is the central figure for the festival weekend. And on behalf of this Parade Committee, Bubba Edgerly is with us to talk about that partnership and the role that they may play along with us in helping keep Savannah clean. Bubba?
Good morning. We've been working as a partnership with Susan and the City of Savannah since May. We're here to help keep Savannah green and clean. So during parade day, we'll have our adjutants. They'll be in white coats and golf carts, be carrying trash bags, the paper bags, and we'll be handing them out throughout the parade route, especially in the staging area and all along the parade route. So that's our partnership with City of Savannah, and it's been working really well. Thank you, Susan, for working with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bubba. Does anyone have any questions for any of these fine folks up here?
I guess my only is, when you're closing the squares, do you have like a timeline for people who like come and set up? I mean, they do the running of the squares normally, but do they have to get out at a certain time or that sort of thing?
Well, you know, we're focusing on Chippewa, and we know what's going to happen, right? So we have all this interest and focus on Chippewa, so folks are going to go other places, right? So we are encouraging families with the parade committee to get here early and get their spot. We will have the land rush, as we always do, that morning. But to your point and your question, we do plan on closing Chippewa at 4, so about an hour after the parade ends, depending on when it makes this loop around. You know, we'll be watching that, and so we will have our code compliance staff here and SPD here to help us with that. You know, the other squares, as Gordon mentioned, you know, we have our staff, our great City of Savannah staff, come in and start cleaning up the squares about an hour after the parade. So while we don't specifically close those squares, we do encourage people to kind of pack up and, you know, and safely get to their next destination.
Can you touch upon, too, a little bit more of the don'ts that you can't bring to this square?
Right. So, you know, one of the big issues that we had last year is styrofoam coolers. So we are asking people to not bring styrofoam coolers. Specifically in this square, we will not allow it. But, you know, it's, you know, pack it in, pack it out. We require this, you know, at Tybee, when you go to the beach, when you go to a national park, you know, this is a national landmark district. We should try to, you know, use objects like coolers that you can reuse. And we're, you know, styrofoam breaks down, and next thing you know, Gordon's folks 2 months later are picking little pieces of styrofoam out of the plant material. We just don't want to have that. We're also asking in this square specifically not to bring tables and tents. That was a real issue last year. We will have signage up for that, but we want people to plan ahead. And of course, as Kevin Milton mentioned, his code compliance staff will be here to help enforce that. But I would say, you know, for folks that are going to the other squares, you know, really do try to avoid styrofoam. It helps us incredibly. And if you want to be partners with us, you know, try to do those things that help us at the end of the parade, the end of the event, to make, as John and his staff and Gordon and his staff do every year, make it beautiful.
I have one more question. What about Recorder's Court? Can you talk about kind of the process of clearing that with the courts and kind of getting that here in Chippewa Square?
So the way the Recorder's Court is going to work that day is similar to how it has in the past, where we used to have night court, where the judge is actually housed at Recorder's Court in the courthouse. Like I said, we will use Chippewa as kind of a central point to, you know, take people over to Recorder's Court. So if you have to be arrested, and, you know, for underage drinking or something of that nature, you know, you will be transported over there and held in the court. They have 2 areas that they can hold folks, and then the judge will see you at that time. If you get a ticket for littering or something of that sort, we're compelling people to go by lowering the fine rate for that particular day. You know, we're even setting up pedicabs over here. We're hoping to set up pedicabs and let people hop on a pedicab, go over and pay their fine, and then get back to what they're doing. So it is a real partnership. It's a difficult, you know, as you know, it's difficult to navigate the city during the parade and the festival. So, you know, having SPD, having code compliance, definitely the Chatham County Sheriff's Office, you know, helping with that. You know, it is a partnership, and we are, you know, we're going to try it this year. We're going to see how it goes. Next year, the parade will be on a Tuesday. I think it'll be a little less crowded. We'll be able to implement something a little more defined.
So that partnership with the courts, like clearing it, was never an issue or anything like that?
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm sorry.
In terms of the working, because you were originally, you were never going to process anyone in the actual square. It was always you were going to transfer that to the court, correct?
Yeah, let me address that. I'm Buddy Clay. I'm the court administrator for the Recorder's Court, and I'm pretty familiar with St. Patrick's Day because I had a lot of experience with that too.
Yeah.
When I was the city marshal for the city. One of the things that we have to be concerned about, and obviously, is the assurance that we have to provide as a court that everybody that gets charged with an offense, whether it's a local ordinance or a more serious criminal offense, they get the same level of due process in the court. And so we had to strike a good balance about how to make that happen. We wanted the judge to be available, and so that we could take care of cases and expedite processing. But at the same time, we had to be aware that there were certain things we could do in the square, and certain things that had to be done in the courthouse. So what we'll have on the square primarily is some staging that's done by part of the clerical staff or the clerk's office. In many instances, we'll be able to, if the situation allows for it, we'll be able to place the case on a future calendar and take care of it in the courtroom. In some offenses, in some instances of things that occur that day that we feel like we could get before a judge, we could go ahead and take them over, especially if they're from away from the city. Allow them to have due process. I can tell you now, the judge is not going to take guilty pleas from intoxicated people. They're going to make sure that we do everything by rules of procedure, and the judge is going to see to that. I think we've worked out a real good partnership with our police agencies to. We'll be having to do some things out of the jail over the course of the weekend, having bond hearings out there to expedite getting people out of jail and such as that. So we work very closely with the Sheriff's Department with that as well. So we'll be fairly invested in our effort that weekend and trying to do things that will make sure that people understand that when they're out here littering and creating havoc and leaving a mess behind, there's a consequence for it. So we can start tapping down some of that kind of behavior. But the court's role in this is the court's role, and to ensure people have a right to a hearing if they want one, things of that nature. So, is that good? Any other questions?
Buddy, can you talk about, do you have the dates that are set for the court?
We're going to be doing the court sessions the week of April the 14th. I can't tell you the exact dates, they're on the top of my head. I think they're the 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's what we discussed on Friday. So we had those sessions set aside, some special sessions set aside, so we could put those cases on those calendars. And if people are from out of town, and they decide they don't want to come back for a court hearing, there'll be a fine set up on the online payment system, and they can go ahead and go in and pay a fine. By doing that, they admit guilt, basically. But any other questions?
Any other questions any other questions? Just a reminder, we will kick off next week, St. Patrick's Day Parade and Festival Week. We'll have a press conference at 10 a.m. in Ellis Square. At that time, we'll go completely over mobility, and that includes Uber and Lyft and CAT and all the mobility issues throughout downtown Savannah. That'll be Monday at 10 a.m. And then tentatively for Wednesday, we will have a press conference at 2 p.m. in Johnson Square. We're still working out the details, and we will send out a full press release. All these folks are available for individual interviews if you would like. Thank you very much for coming.